Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you are looking for daycare options around Alpharetta, then this video is for you. Now, this is something my wife and I have just gone through this year as we have our two young girls, and finding daycare, especially a place that you like and trust, is extremely hard. So in today's video, we're going to dive in a little bit just in terms of what I would do if I was doing it over again as far as finding the right place, questions that I would ask differently, and a better overall approach. Now, obviously, this is one of the most important things, and it is very stressful, especially if you're going about your day, you have young children, and while you're at work or whatever you may be doing, you want to know that they are cared for and they are looked after very well, and they're getting exactly what they need as if you were parenting them throughout the day. Because after all, they are our most important assets and treasures. Now, when it comes to finding the right school, I actually felt that this was way harder than I thought it would be. Going in, you think you have kind of a set of questions, and then as you tour more schools, a lot of it kind of unravels and you just pull back the onion a little bit more. Now, Alpharetta is very large, so depending on the space you're looking for, I think one of the biggest things is obviously going to be thinking about location of the daycare or preschool. A lot of things that you want to factor in are, what is your commute like? How often do they have hours in the morning? When can you drop off? What is the traffic like going to be for pickup at rush hour? Depending on what part of Alpharetta you fall into, on the west side or east side, it can be pretty hectic, especially with one-lane roads and tons of traffic lights getting even from your exit to wherever the daycare is or where you live. So you kind of have to buffer all those in as well, especially when you're thinking. Now, one of the wonderful things about Alpharetta is we have tons of options. You have your traditional daycares, you have church schools, morning out programs, there's Montessori schools, you're gonna have your typical franchises as well, and then a lot of pre-K and pre-K to post-pre-K schools. They give a ton of different options. But the problem with that is it can be a little hard trying to figure out what is best for you. I think something that would be super helpful is we're just gonna kind of go through a lot of the questions that I would ask if we were looking again. And these have actually changed because we had our oldest daughter at one school, absolutely loved it, had a fantastic experience to begin with, and really kind of saw that perception change over time to the point where we ended up transferring her to a different school. And honestly, at the new school, it actually shows us how much was lacking at the previous location. And that's something that's hard to necessarily figure out on tours and diving into just questions. And that's why it's so important to just get a feel for community response in terms of what others think as well. Now, obviously, the basic things that you may want to touch on are just, what are the monthly price? What are the hours? Do they have flexible programs? Is it 5 days a week? Some of them offer 2-day or 3-day options as well. You can get half days depending on maybe you have a little bit of a younger child and you are able to be home for some of it. You don't want to commit to that full day yet. A lot of them do have pretty decent programs where they can go, they're there in the morning, they'll get the nap in, or you can pick them up before nap as well. That created a little bit of flexibility, especially with our oldest, just knowing that she wasn't ready to commit to a full day, and we were able to kind of get her there in the morning. She was socializing with friends, doing activities, and then we were able to just pick her up and have her nap at home and kind of continue after that. Now, obviously, outside of kind of the price and hours, reviews are one of the biggest things. And this is where I would really look into places like Nextdoor or Facebook groups, or if you're part of a local association or community, and engage with other members who have lived here for a while and get their feel to what they're seeing. One thing that I would definitely tell people to be mindful of is when you're looking online, obviously the online reviews are very crucial, but they only paint so much of a picture. An example of the place we were at earlier this year, they had a ton of reviews going back a very long time. The owners were coming up on their 20-year anniversary of opening the place, and then they sold it. And all of the reviews after that didn't accurately reflect the picture because they were all from the previous ownership. So when you're looking at reviews, I would take into consideration how old are the reviews and find out, has the property or the company or program actually changed hands anytime recently? Some of the big things just to be concerned about with your specific child are, what is the student to child ratio there? How many are there per classroom? Is there just a teacher? Is there a teacher's assistant? Are they following state guidelines, or do they have their own guidelines? And what kind of hands-on care is your child getting? Are they sending any type of photos home throughout the day? Do they have a specific app that you can use continues, that you can communicate with teachers? Are you able to see your child okay and engaging? And is there a certain amount that you can expect? It's tough when you're getting 5 one day and maybe 1 the next. So we do try to like to find a baseline, and hopefully they can stick to that. In addition to the photos, another thing that can be really helpful that we liked was just seeing arts and crafts that were coming home. Obviously, we know that our child is doing a bunch during the day at school, but getting a feel for actually seeing what she's creating, obviously with the help of some of the teachers, but having something at home to then be able to put on the wall that she can point at and say that she did is really cool. So I would find out, even if it's weekly or monthly, just what to expect in terms of what can come home to you. Another big thing is obviously the meals. How do they handle the meals program? Is it something that's made in-house? Is it brought in from a third party? And can they handle specific requests? That's usually a big one. There are certain ones that have larger kitchens or cafeteria styles and others, and I would try and get a feel for where the food is coming from and how it's prepared. Another big one that we went through that was very stressful is potty training. How do the schools and teachers actually handle potty training? We found that over the course of full-time teachers and sometimes substitute teachers, or the turnover, that not all of them were necessarily as familiar with potty training or specialized in that. And that made it very difficult for a child to get on board with it, especially as they're learning and they're trying to figure out their own body, how it feels, and what they can and can't communicate depending on how much they can talk already. So if you have somebody that is really hands-on, that can coach and help the child out, that is going to be a much more foundational basis for success than sometimes what we saw is a child has an accident, they're just immediately put back into diapers, and it gets very confusing for the kid. So that's something that we didn't necessarily know until we transferred schools, and how much better some areas excel with things like potty training, and just how much of a difference a certain environment can make as far as what you can accomplish in 2 to 3 months compared to like 2 to 3 weeks. Now, obviously the weather here in Georgia is pretty great most of the year. It does get super hot out in the summer. So I would find out if any of the area for the kids to play outside, is it covered? Do they have certain time limits that they spend outside, making sure that the water bottles are brought out? But on the flip side of that, what about rainy days or days, especially, we have a few months, December to March, where it does get very cold. And it gets to the point where you kind of wonder, if it's too cold, if it's in the 30s or we have heavy rain, is there an indoor gym or rec space that the kids can actually still kind of enjoy, like a recess environment? Or are they just going to be confined to the classroom? Now, a lot of that just depends on obviously how large the school is, what kind of footprint they have, with the lot that it's on. But that's something that we found actually made a big difference, because the kids that have an opportunity to still, even if it's inside, run around a larger gym space and get out of the classroom, that kind of tires them out for naps, makes them socialize a little bit more, and kind of just breaks up the day. One thing that we really looked for is, how do the schools get you involved as a parent? Are there events that go on throughout the year? How do they handle the holidays and kind of promoting that within, or avoid them if it's something that you're focused on kind of just strictly learning? And really an opportunity for a larger community feel. Some places have book fairs, some do little community events on the weekend where they kind of have like a fall fair or circus, a water themed event in the summer. I would just get an idea of how the school plans on engaging not only the kids, but the parents. Is there a social media presence that they're actually promoting themselves in the community, where you can kind of see these are real-time kids, parents, activities going on? And maybe, especially if you're new to the area, that can be something that can help you get acclimated and find other families in similar situations. Unfortunately, a big thing to look at is also the contract that you're going into. Obviously, these schools have your kids. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, or if you ever feel like there is something not going right and you want to get your child out of there, find out what the opt-out or termination clause is. A lot of times, each school is going to be completely different, and they will try to hold your feet to the fire, because at the end of the day, they are trying to keep enrollment up to pay their expenses as well. This is a business, most of which are for profit. Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I do think one of the big things to consider is the fact that each school regardless of what it is, you're at the mercy of the ownership and teachers. So when you're touring schools, as much as it may feel like, especially if they have wait lists, that you're interviewing to send your child there, don't be afraid to interview them as well. Find out more about the owners, find out about their history, how long have they been doing this, see if you can get a feel for what the teacher turnover is or the teacher satisfaction, because you want to know that wherever you go, it's a well-run program and the teachers are happy, because that just permeates and trickles down to the kids and makes their days better and makes your lives easier as parents, because you know your children are safe and well cared for. Another thing I would highly encourage is, if you do find a location that is perfect for you and you're really happy, just remember these teachers are dealing with so much on a daily basis, and especially are grossly underpaid for what they do. So something awesome that my wife does a lot is she'll just send little notes to the teachers thanking them for what they're doing, and really just showcasing if our daughter had some major progress or breakthrough, or came home and was talking about something fun that they did. Just give that back. Maybe it's a gift card to the teachers, or just a note, or something that makes them feel valued and says that, hey, I see you, I appreciate what you're doing with my child, you're doing a great job, and we just want to thank you for being here in the time when we are dropping her off, because that is a stressful environment. So to tie it all back, Alpharetta has an abundance of options regardless of what you're looking for. I think the most important thing is really to consider what is the right environment for your child and your family, but also making sure that you get in a situation that if you're not comfortable, you know next steps, and you're not necessarily scrambling at the last minute to find another option. If you do have any questions at all, I'm happy to share more in detail about the experiences we went through, the places we toured, what we saw and recommended. And then obviously some awesome options are really just going to be finding things online, some other neighborhood tools like Reddit, Nextdoor, Facebook groups. If you need any recommendations for those as well, I'm happy to share. But I thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.